The Independent Electoral Commission says it will seek advice from either the Constitutional or Electoral Court on the Justice Moseneke report. The report recommends that the October elections be postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The inquiry says that under the current circumstances, the polls won't be free and fair. To talk more on this, we're joined by Chief Electoral Officer and at the Commission, Mamabolo. Good evening to you, Mr. Mamabolo. Thank you so much for your time tonight. You're approaching the courts. Talk to us then about how this process is going to unfold.
Thank you very much. It is apparent that a constitutional amendment is not practical in the time available. As such, it's an impractical option which we can't exercise. The only viable proposition at the moment is an approach to a judicial forum wherein we seek authorization to conduct the general elections outside of the constitutionally prescribed timelines. To that extent, the Commission has already appointed a council team, and they've commenced with the drafting of the papers.
And I still, when one was watching the briefing this afternoon, we are still none the wiser, though, as to which court are you going to be approaching here? There's talk of the electoral courts, there's talk of the constitutional court?
It's a matter on which our council are reflecting, and as soon as they conclude their legal strategy, the matter will be determined and communication will be made with all concerned.
I know, Mr. Mamabolo, that you're not a legal person and neither am I, but given the fact that it's the Constitution that stipulates the time frames of the election, should you not be automatically approaching that particular court?
No, it's not an automatic matter. There are issues of legal strategy involved on which we're taking advice, and as soon as those considerations are made, a decision that is suitable for the process will be made.
Are you able to share with us then what would form part of that legal strategy?
It's under development at the moment, and as soon as the consideration in that regard are concluded, we'll be able to share that with everybody.
It sounds to me, though, that, we're still in the same position that we were in this afternoon when the IEC was briefing the media, and lots of questions still unanswered. One would then say, why was the IEC not then able to say at the time when the former Deputy Chief Justice made his recommendations known that the IEC was then now going to begin a process of starting to be able to seek legal action and all of that, legal advice rather, and all of that, because right now we as South Africans are still in the dark and it looks like everything is still up in the air, especially if you're saying that you're still going to seek legal opinions. Could you not have said that earlier?
No, I don't know what reference you're making to. The former Deputy Chief Justice gave a report on Tuesday. We said we're going to look at the report, and indeed, this afternoon we came out and said we accept the report and is the basis upon which we're going to be proceeding. Now, of course, once you accept the report, there are certain consequential actions that you have to undertake, and decisions have been made in respect of those. One of those decisions is to approach a court of competent jurisdiction. Now, there are questions that must be carefully considered, including which court to approach. And those matters need careful consideration, and they are being given consideration at the moment. As soon as a decision is made in that regard, we will share that with the country. The IEC is not interested in running the process in a manner that does not take the public into confidence. But at the moment, we can't give you which court we will be approaching because such a decision is yet to be made.
And it's for that reason I ask then to say, maybe could the IEC not have waited until it gets a firmer legal opinion in order to then address the nation and say, this is the court that we are approaching, on this basis that we are then approaching this court, and this is what we are going to then be looking into as a legal strategy? Because tonight as we speak, it still sounds like all of that is still in the works, and the IEC has come out to say that this is what we're doing, but we still don't have a lot of answers.
No, we do have answers insofar as they relate to the position of the Commission on the report. It's a very weighty national issue on which the Commission did not want to delay unduly. We couldn't sit on the report for longer than we have, only because the intricate details of the legal strategy are in the works. It's a matter of serious constitutional import on which we needed to take the country into confidence. So it was important that we speak as soon as decisions were made in that regard. Issues of legal strategy will become clearer as the strategy is finalized.
It sounds to me like you were then pressured. You found yourself as the IEC, as you say, that this is a weighty matter. You then found yourself in a position to really have to brief the nation on something in order for everyone involved to then see that there is some movement here. Is that what I understand?
We had to take decisions on the report and define what the posture of the Commission was vis-a-vis the report. And because the Commission made a decision that this is a weighty constitutional matter on which the country was waiting for its position, it was important to communicate. That is what today was about. Issues of legal strategy, as they are finalized, will be availed to the nation.
Some have argued that the IEC, in accepting the recommendations, may be either one of two things. It's either, one, you respect what the former Deputy Chief Justice had to say, or you were simply not as ready for the election as you then had maybe told the nation you would have. Which of these are you leaning towards?
No, I think the correct position is as follows. Political parties within the context of the National Party Liaison Committee indicated that elections must be postponed. Others disagreed and said an election must proceed. The Commission reflected on that and realized that we needed a process, an inquiry, which is legally permitted in terms of the Electoral Commission, to test and analyze in a very systematic and meticulous manner the provisions of the Constitution, the submissions of political parties, medical scientists, and test whether a free and fair election in the prevailing circumstances was possible. Remember, we've always said that on a technical level, in other words, as it relates to the mechanics of an election, we were going to be ready. And we still are there. As insofar as the mechanics of an election are concerned, we can be ready. The point, though, is that you also needed to ensure that the climate in which an election happens is compatible with free and fair elections. This is what this process has been about. We went into the process with an open mind, and we accepted its outcome.
So, because this is uncharted territory, there is a chance that the courts may not agree with your request. Then, are you saying that you are ready, should the court say, go ahead?
Well, the court to say, of course, we can't assume that the court will grant. I mean, this is an extraordinary order we're seeking. It's within the bounds of possibility that the court may say, do proceed. And when that decision is reached, we will proceed. And for that purpose, we will have to be ready, and we have ability to be ready. There are certain things, though, that will be hampered, and the extent to which candidates will be ready from the side of political parties, whether rallies are held and so on, those things may have to be compromised in that scenario. But as for whether there'll be voting stations, will we have trained our staff? Will we have procured ballot papers? That we can assure you that we would have done, yes.
And when it comes to the issue of vaccines, as we saw today in a briefing that there's some 47,500 doses that have had to be destroyed given the unrest that we saw recently. When it comes to that particular process of the vaccination drive, if we do not reach herd immunity, are you then foreseeing that we could be postponing further than February, possibly?
No, the Commission's position is that this is an extraordinary situation, but it should not be exploited further than it's necessary. Remember, the term is 5 years, and you want to have an election as close to the 5 years as is possible. So we should resist temptations to have a longer postponement than recommended.
And Mr. Mamabolo, as we wrap up this conversation, there's been some that have criticized the IEC for seeking this particular process with the Deputy Chief Justice, who say that anyone could have told you that in this current climate you may have found yourself in a position where you might need to postpone the election, and thus maybe you would have wasted time in doing something that you could have done ages ago. What do you say to that criticism leveled against you?
It's unjustified because public opinion on the matter it's divided. Political opinion is divided. Public sentiment is divided. So you needed a dispassionate process that meticulously analyzes the Constitution, looks at medical evidence, and comes with a recommendation. You can't come to such a decision willy-nilly without due process. What this inquiry process has done was to give every interested stakeholder an opportunity to articulate their views and substantiate their positions, which would not have been possible. We couldn't sit in a commission meeting and by a stroke of a pen decide that no, elections are postponed. It can't be so. You need to hear everybody, analyze all relevant factors, and present them in a meticulous report. That is what obtains today.
I wonder what marching orders you gave to the legal team as you seek the legal opinion. How long do they have before we know as the nation which courts you're approaching?
We will launch our application in the not too distant future, possibly within 2 weeks.
All right. And Dr. Mamabolo, thank you so much for your time. We certainly do appreciate it. That was Chief Electoral Officer Dr. Mamabolo.